Alright, horror hounds, and welcome to an episode of This Just In. Today we're going to be talking about Bride of Chucky. Bride of Chucky came out in the late 90s. Scream had kind of revitalized the slasher genre, and Universal decided they'd want to throw some money at Don Mancini to make a new Child's Play movie. But David Kirshner, the producer for all the films up to this point, decided that he was walking by a movie store and he saw Bride of Frankenstein. And how cool would it be to have a bride for Chucky? So he called Don Mancini, and Don Mancini wrote a script. The movie kicks off. An officer going through all the evidence, and you see Leatherface's chainsaw, Jason's mask, Michael Myers' mask, playing a little more homage to other horror movies and being a little more meta, since that had become kind of the cool thing to do. He takes it and he's going to go meet a girl. The girl is on the phone and ends up being Tiffany. But when he gets to the location and he stops, he goes to look in the bag and his head gets pulled back and his throat slit with a nail filer. Tiffany grabs the doll and she walks off to Living Dead Girl. Title card comes up, says Bride of Chucky, and the Chucky is a bunch of flesh pieces meshed together and shoved up to look like his name. So Tiffany was played by Jennifer Tilly, and she really jumped into this role. She went way out of her way to go over the top. She even created some of her own lines, and her and Brad Dourif did their voice recordings at the same time together so they could play off of one another. So here during this scene, you see that she's going to be stitching the doll up and putting them back together. After she puts them back together, you cut over to the main people of this movie. You got Jade going to prom, and she's going with some guy. It's her best friend. I don't remember his name. But her uncle is the police officer in town, like the chief of police, and he decides that he doesn't like her actual boyfriend. So this friend is a ruse to get past that. When they leave, another police officer, they call him Needle Nose because of, I think you guessed it, his needle nose. And he pulls them over to stop them from having any fun. Her uncle's played by John Ritter, and they're in the pouring rain, and Jesse tells him, "You fuck." And John Ritter just politely says, "You won't, at least not Jade anymore." So, what a nice uncle. He's making sure that the girl doesn't have sexual relations at a young age. Cares about that kid since it's not really his. So Tiffany sets up a little pentagram on the floor and puts Chucky on it, and she's going to do some voodoo. She's holding up a voodoo dolls, or I think it's voodoo for dummies. Stupid. Now, I know that the voodoo thing is kind of a long thing and they wanted to shorten up the chant, but to use voodoo for dummies just because they had everything in the world you could think of for dummies at the time. Just sad. So she does it and it doesn't seem like it works. Then her boyfriend Damien comes in and he shows her a picture of some guy he killed today. She's getting real excited about it, and then she realizes that because of the nail paint that he just painted himself up. And she pretty much makes him seem like a pathetic loser because he doesn't know how to kill somebody. He says he's working his way up to it. I mean, he spent 10 hours on that photo. But she don't want to be with some dude that doesn't know how to fucking kill somebody. That's all she cares about. I mean, come on. So she sees that Chucky's not in the same location and she's trying to find him. And she has her buddy Damien here looking under the couch and doing some other things. And then Chucky pulls up. And he doesn't seem to be too fond of Chucky. Because Chucky's not cool and Chucky's not scary. And clearly Tiffany has this obsession with Chucky thanks to all the stuff she has up on her walls. He ends up taking the Chucky doll and fake humps it and throws it to the side. She gets him to go into the bedroom, ties him up, puts Chucky on his stomach, and does a little menage a trois. She starts doing a sexy dance, and he's talking about how Chucky's not man enough like he is. Chucky's head spins around and tells him, "It's not the size that counts, asshole. It's what you do with it."
It ain't the size that counts, asshole. It's what you do with it.
You'll ever see from the lip. At this moment, he then throws a pillow on his head and he sits on it and has a whole conversation with Tiffany. Then eventually the guy stops struggling and just dies. Tiffany made him Swedish meatballs and doing all this stuff, because she's been waiting for him forever. Because, she found that ring and he was going to propose. Turns out he wasn't going to propose. You can't just make Charles Lee Ray marry you. He doesn't want to. He wants to go out and kill people whenever he pleases. This makes her pretty pissed, and she drops him into a baby crib that has a lock on it and somehow is stored under a table. Doesn't sound like the normal place you put children, but to each their own. She ends up going to bed. The next morning, she put Damien's body in a trunk, and she's going to ask her neighbor to help her. Neighbor happens to be Jesse. So she gets him to put him in the back, and then she leaves. She disposes of the body in the river. And when she comes back, she has a doll for Chucky. It's a bride doll. Yay, Chucky's going to get married. But she drops it in there, laughs at him, walks away to go take a bath. He ends up ripping the ring off, breaking free, runs in the bathroom, and runs at her with a knife, and she kicks him in the face, and he goes flying. He then runs up and pushes the TV that's on a cart into the bathtub. Electrocutes her. He then does the dummy chant, because he has the doll in there with him. And he transfers the soul into the doll. Hey! But she's kind of pissed, because how are they going to get out of these bodies? Turns out, the Amulet of Damballa. This was something that Charles Lee Ray wore around his neck when he died, so he was buried with it. Unless you go back and watch Child's Play 1, because he was never wearing that amulet. Fun fact, though, is that he was wearing the amulet in Child's Play 1, but the director cut all the scenes with the amulet out, so Don Mancini's amulet was never used, but he still got to use it in the end, didn't he? They decide they're going to call up Jesse and see if they can get Jesse to drive the dolls to Jersey. She tells him she'll give him $500 to start, and when he gets the dolls there, get $500 back. He agrees. So now we get a montage of Tiffany making herself look more like Tiffany than what the merry little doll with the dress on it is. You got the black boots, fishnet stockings, leather jacket, black lipstick, puts the little Chucky heart tattoo on her chest. She's ready to rock and roll. She even got a cigarette in her mouth, and Chucky's like, They make this movie is definitely a lot more animated when it comes to Chucky's face. Things he does and things he says is just much, much more animated. So Jesse picks up the dolls and he heads over to Jade's house to take her away and run off. While he goes to pick her up, her uncle goes out to the van that he drives, and he's going to plant some drugs for when he gets pulled over by Needle Nose. When he goes in there, Chucky and Tiffany are nervous, so they decide they're going to set up a little plan of diversion, and he thinks he's going to stab him with a knife, and Tiffany refers to him as Martha Stewart. Then he goes for a hammer, and she said that's a little predictable. Kind of used it on Aunt Maggie in the first one, didn't you, Chucky? So then, when they get him to come up to the front of the vehicle, and he looks, they scare him, and they cut a cord on the airbag, so the airbag explodes, but they put a bunch of nails on the airbag, so then it shoots a bunch of nails in his face, so it looks like Pinhead. They hurry up, and they pick his body up and put him in the trunk in the back of the van, and they clean up the blood real fast. So the kids take off, and Needle Nose pulls them over. They're in a parking lot. There's a lot of people around. I don't know. It's like a little rave in a parking lot. I don't know why there's so many people there. Now they have a little conversation, and Jade ends up getting pissed at him because he does it for the money. And she throws a weak-ass punch and tells him the most ridiculous line I think I've heard in a Chucky movie so far. She tells him she's going to vaporize him. Vaporize him. Okay, then. So he goes back to his vehicle, and they go inside the store, and Chucky decides he's going to do something about this, so he takes a rag, and he army crawls his way over to the cop's car, sticks the rag into the tank of the cop car, sets it on fire. When he does, he drops the lighter, which happened to be the same lighter from the cop at the very beginning that Tiffany killed, and he's passing by some stoner guy, and when he looks at him, he gives him the middle finger. And for some reason, the stoner's line, everybody remembers, rude fucking doll, man.
Rude fucking doll.
And the cop car explodes, and everybody's seen it happen, and everybody just saw Jade say she was going to vaporize him. So, looks like two things have happened that are pretty convenient. They end up taking off and leaving, and as they're driving, they get a phone call from their friend about how he saw on the news that they're wanted because everybody saw what she said and how she hit the cop, and now the cop blew up. And the lighter's there, so now they think they've killed two cops. So we got some serial killers on the loose. They pull over at Niagara Falls, which I don't know where they're coming from, that they had to go through Niagara Falls to get to Jersey. It doesn't really ever say. But, anywho, they go to one of those stop and get married at places, and they go inside, and they're getting married. And as they're getting married, her uncle wakes up in the back of that van with all the nails in his face, and Chucky goes old school and just stabs him a bunch of times with a knife very viciously. Finally kills John Ritter. R.I.P.
Huh? A true classic. Never goes out of style.
That was good.
At this point, they end up staying in a hotel to kind of lay low. And when they're in their room and they're watching, they see that they're on the news and stuff. A random drunk couple run in who just got married too. And they want to play some swappy with the partners. Might be fun to do on your first night as a married couple, is to not sleep with the person that you just married. Instead, I'll take the stranger over there. Obviously, Jesse and Jade say no. But as they're leaving, the lady steals money out of his wallet. And Tiffany saw it. So then we go over to their room where they're having a little bit of fun on the waterbed. Tiffany goes in, grabs a champagne bottle, and chucks it up at the ceiling, which is a completely glass, like mirror ceiling. And all the shards fall in its glory, and the bed explodes and slices them all up, and you got waterbed water flowing everywhere with blood mixed in it. Hits Chucky's feet, and Chucky's in love. I mean, this is all he's ever wanted. So he grabs her ring off from her finger, and he proposes. And then they consummate that marriage. That's right. We get doll sex. It's only silhouettes, and there is a funny line in here where Tiffany said, "Do you have a rubber?" Turns out that that's actually a line she made up when they were just kind of going back and forth. And Brad Dourif made up on the spot, "Look at me, I'm all rubber." The next day, they take off. They're going to be taking off to leave. Their friend shows up because at this point in the movie, the cops think that Jesse and Jade are killers. Jesse thinks Jade did it. Jade thinks Jesse did it. They both confide in their one friend, and he doesn't understand how they both could think the other one's the killer and not know anything. So he ends up coming to meet them. They get in the van and they're driving along, and he says something smells. And he looks in the trunk and he sees her dead uncle. So then he steals the dead uncle's gun and he gets nervous and he tells them to pull over. And when he does get them to finally pull over, they don't understand what's going on until they see the dead body of the uncle. He starts to call over the police while they're on the freeway, pulled over, and Chucky and Tiffany both pull out guns, and Chucky says, "Don't fucking move." And the guy gets scared and he backs up and smash 18-wheeler. Literally, blood and guts fly everywhere. He tells them to get back in the car and they need to drive. They end up shooting the cop's tire out, and they go driving away. Next, we see them in an RV, randomly. Jade's tied up in the back. Jesse's driving. Chucky's sitting in the front seat. Tiffany's back there with an apron on cooking. She ends up looking in the one closet to get something out of there. And there's the two owners of the RV, dead, shot in the head, off screen. I feel like so far every single one of these movies has had an off-screen kill. Just sad. We came to see the kills. We want to see Chucky in action. So they're having dinner and having a good old time, and Jesse says, she does not quit the homemaker though, huh? She doesn't clean up. And from earlier in the movie, Tiffany told him to treat a woman right. If she slaves over a hot stove, the least you can do is wash the dishes. And he hopes that triggers something. And Chucky says, "Hey, Tiff, those dishes aren't going to wash themselves, you know." This pisses her off, and she throws a plate at his head. They get into a big fight. They're arguing back and forth, saying a bunch of hurtful things to each other. When they're supposed to be in love, they just got married. Oh. Jesse kicks Tiffany into the oven and shuts the door, and Chucky shoots at Jade. Jesse then pushes Chucky out the window and ducks while he shoots, but in the meantime, he ends up swerving and crashing the vehicle. As they all kind of leave the vehicle blows up, and he sees Jade running with Chucky, who's got a gun to her chest to head for that cemetery that's only a few miles away now. So he grabs Tiffany by the head, burnt up head, and runs with her to go after him. We see Chucky go up to the grave of Charles Lee Ray. There's a coroner there digging up the grave because there's something going on. Why are we finding these fingerprints here? And he shoots the coroner in the head. Dead, falls down in the grave. He then sends Jade down to go get that amulet. Jade gets the amulet, come out, and we get another swap scene. Just like in the last movie. I'll give you your burnt wife if you give me my not as burnt wife. Thanks. After the swap, Chucky grabs his knife and he throws it at the couple, and Jesse turns and takes the shot right in the back of the spine. He tells Jade to pull it out. Jade doesn't. She throws the knife to the side, and Chucky goes and picks it up. So we see the kids tied up. Chucky's got his hand in the air doing the chant. Tiffany rolls over to him. Tells them that they belong together forever. And then she tells them they belong dead, just like from Bride of Frankenstein. And stabs him right in the middle of the back with that knife. And he falls down like he's dead. So then the camera kind of sits on Tiffany for a while until you hear a nice thud and you see a shovel come through because Chucky just smashed her in the head with a shovel. She gets up and they're going back and forth, swinging shovels at each other and everything else. This is like an Extreme Rules match. Eventually, Chucky gets the upper hand because he stabs her in the stomach with the knife right through, and she falls down with the blood pouring out. After this happens, Jesse gets tagged in and smashes Chucky in the head with a shovel, and he goes flying and falls into the grave. He then runs over and grabs a ladder so Chucky can't get out of the grave. Chucky's screaming and going crazy, and Jade's pointing the gun at him, and the cop pulls up. Tells her to put the gun down. As he walks over, and Jade grabs the gun, points it at Chucky, and he tells her, "You can kill me, but I'll be back. I always come back."
Yay, but dying is such a bitch.
And he gets shot through the heart, and you see the blood go flying, reminiscence of the first Chucky. Then he gets shot a few more times, and he falls, and his head lays right up against Charles Lee Ray's skull. Well, the cop's kind of amazed because the kids didn't do it. So he tells people that they didn't do it on the walkie-talkie, and he sends them on their way. And he goes over and he finds the Tiffany doll, and he pokes it a few times. Poke, poke, poke. And eventually she screams, "Ah!" You see her stomach and everything else starts moving all over the place. And then the blood squirts all over his face. And he's doing this weird, horrific scream. And you see a baby coming out. When the baby finally comes out with those big blue eyes and those sharp, sharp teeth, he just jumps at his face like, "Rah!" Bites him, and that's end of the movie. Setting us up for a sequel, which we'll be visiting in the next one. Overall thoughts on the movie. I like the fact that they did modernize it. It's a lot more comedy than any of the previous ones were. It's mainly like a romantic comedy, just with some murdering in it. Chucky and Tiffany, Brad Dourif and Tiffany, they play off of each other really well in this. I guess doing the whole shooting all of your lines as dolls beforehand really helped make a difference. But everything goes smooth. It's like the perfect yin and yang when it comes for like the bride of Chucky, since he's such a sadistic killer. And she likes to kill people too, and she's pretty sadistic herself. Jesse and Jade, they're probably the worst part of the entire movie. They spend the whole time bickering back and forth with each other, but yet they're running away together and they get married because they love each other. Is that true? We don't know. It's just like a whole bag of shit. Their whole relationship anyways. When it comes to the kills, way bloodier than any of the previous movies. They went out for the carnage on this one. You got the blood from the slit throat, you got the guy's lip, John Ritter getting the old pinhead treatment, and then the stab treatment. The guy who gets blown up in the car. The friend, ironically, because I just rewatched this today before shooting this, when he's going to get hit by the tractor trailer, you can actually see the body's already exploded before it would hit him. It was a neat special effect, probably in 1998, I think, when this came out. But in 2022, you can see that it was a little bit messed up on that one. But overall, they did a good job with that kill. This is finally the first one where Chucky doesn't go through hell when he dies. He just gets shot a bunch of times. And that's about it. I mean, he has a couple of fights with another doll. Comical. And we ended off with the old cliffhanger of what's going to happen next. Chucky has a child now. Overall, I would give this movie... I'm going to go with a 4 out of 5. It's a very entertaining movie. It was great to bring it into the future, something new, something different. And it was overall hit or miss when it came to the comedy. I mean, there's a lot of lines in here, all different stuff. Chucky's playing with like a toy and it asks you how to spell woman, and he spells bitch and then laughs about it. Little things like that. Not for me in that sense, but you know, it's not the size that counts. What you do with an asshole and rips his lip out. Found that entertaining. When he gives the guy the middle finger. And just a bunch of different dialogue in here for Chucky. And this is the first movie where Chucky is finally like front and center. Like in the other ones, he's chasing somebody. He's trying to do this, trying to do that. This movie kind of just follows Chucky instead of Chucky being the killer. It's different than most horror movies, because most of these slasher icons in the past, you'll see like, oh, this is our group of friends. This person's going to be the one who makes to the end, and the killer's going to stalk them and kill them. But now we're at the point where the whole movie is surrounded by Chucky and what's Chucky doing, because Chucky is the main character and they know this. So the next one we're going to be doing is Seed of Chucky. Bet you guys are waiting to hear my thoughts on that one. That one is a little different, to say the least. If you would, give me the like, subscribe to my channel, leave some comments down below, share this with everybody that you can. And until the next one, rest in peace.